Qatari government has condemned Israel's attack on Hamas leaders in Doha. In a statement read on Qatar TV, Qatar has vowed it won't deal lightly with what it described as cowardly Israeli attack. Israel launched an audacious attack on Hamas leaders in Qatar on Tuesday, expanding its military action that have ranged across the Middle East to include the Gulf Arab state, where the Palestinian group has long had its political base. Qatar, which has acted as a mediator alongside Egypt in talks on a ceasefire in the almost two-year-old war in Gaza, called the action a flagrant violation of international law. Hamas has meanwhile said that its officials in the ceasefire negotiating team survived the attack. Israeli officials told Reuters that the strike was aimed at top Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya, its exiled Gaza chief top negotiator. Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani says the mediation efforts are part of the Qatari identity and nothing will deter its role in that regard. Al Thani has added U.S. officials first warned Qatar of the Israeli attack 10 minutes later after the attack began, describing the attack as treacherous.
The attack happened at 3:46. The first call we had from an American official was at 3:56, which is 10 minutes after the attack. And after that, President Trump has spoken with His Highness the Emir. He condemned the attack, and the U.S. government positioned that they have no knowledge about the attack nor any coordination about it until it started to happen.
The evidence is clear. Excessive military spending does not guarantee peace. It often undermines it, fueling arms race, deepening mistrust, and diverting resources from the very foundations of stability. A more secure world begins by investing at least as much in fighting poverty as we do in fighting wars.
We're now joined by Senior Research Fellow and Director at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fakude, who joins us now. Thembisa, can we expect that Qatar will view at least part of Israeli negotiators as honest interlocutors following this attack? Seems like we have lost our connection there with Thembisa. We're going to try and establish that connection with him and bring you that conversation. In the meantime, let me take you to this breaking news story. Conservative commentator and media personality Charlie Kirk has been shot at an event at Utah Valley University in Utah. Reported by Fox News, citing a spokesperson for the influential ally of U.S. President Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk has been shot at Utah Valley University. Condition remains unknown, the spokesperson told Fox News. We'll bring you more on that as the story develops. Well, Thembisa Fakude joins us now. Let's try and see if that line holds this time around. Thembisa, following this attack, can Qatar negotiators and interlocutors view Israeli negotiators as honest interlocutors?
I don't think so. I think after this, the trust is gone, and you're likely to have perhaps the Egyptians and Americans playing a much more important, visible role. But I don't see Israelis ever coming back to Qatar after this, because the trust is actually breached, and I don't think the Qataris will ever trust them again.
Qatar is a relatively peaceful neighbor in the Middle East. Do you expect it to retaliate? The Prime Minister did say that they will not take this lightly. That could mean anything.
Yes, it could mean anything, but I don't see them retaliating in terms of bombing the Israelis. That's been the case. Number one, it's just too far away. Israel is just too far away, and Qatar has to go through a number of airspaces to reach Israel, which is, again, a discussion point at the moment, because Israel couldn't have had that attack taking place without the facilitation of at least 2 or 3 countries, including Jordan and Saudi Arabia. So you have a country that's spending so much money in a region that's spending so much money in terms of its defense. But when it comes to the crux, those defense systems are not in place, nor the arrangements that they have with the United States, particularly at the Al Udeid military base, which is supposed to be protecting Qatar. It has proven to be not effective.
What can we expect the impact of this to be on U.S. Qatar relations? It sounds like, from the statement by the Qatari government, that they view the complicity of the U.S. in this as to be a sense of a form of betrayal, that they got the first call from a U.S. official 10 minutes after the first strike. Importantly, it's important to note that Qatar houses the largest U.S. military base outside of the U.S. This certainly does mean that there's a question to be asked about whether or not Qatar can continue to trust the U.S. as an ally and a partner in this.
Well, I've argued before, the base you're talking about is called Al-Udeid military base, which is outside Doha in Qatar. And it's the largest in the Middle East, as you correctly put it, and one of the largest in the world. And it has not helped Qatar, not only now, but even during the first attack, when the Iranians retaliated against the United States, the Al-Udeid camp did not do much to protect Qatar. You still had some missiles, even though many of them were intercepted, but some of them did land inside the state of Qatar. And the United States is not to be trusted. And I think and hope that Qatar has learned from this experience, that notwithstanding the intention of spending trillions of dollars in the United States economy and further gifting the American President Donald Trump with a jet or an airplane that's worth hundreds of millions, he's still not helpful. He still accepts and agrees to enemies of Qatar, including Israel in particular, attacking Qatar. So this relationship is actually one-sided. And hopefully Qatar have learned from this that, you know, you can spend as much as you want on the United States and invest as much as you want in the economy. They will still hit you and they will still support Israel. Whatever it takes, Israel will continue doing as it pleases in the Middle East, with the genocide in the form of Benjamin Netanyahu going on, kicking the can down the road, of course, because he wants to protect his own career. So he wants to start wars everywhere. Today, not only did he hit Qatar yesterday, but we heard about him also bombing Yemen, and it continues with his incursion and killing of people and genocide in the West Bank, not only in Gaza. So Qatar hopefully has learned from this experience, and it will begin to reduce its investment in that Al-Udeid military base and start looking at investing in its own people in the region.
Yeah. Now, there are reports of a British military jet having been in circulation in Qatari airspace at the time the attack took place. And the assumption there, or at least the speculation there, is that this military jet may have been assisting in refueling the Israeli fighter jets in the air at the time of the strike. This, of course, calls into question the relationship that Keir Starmer also has with the Qatari at this point, particularly around supporting Benjamin Netanyahu, when he had earlier on in the start of his term had taken somewhat of a softer distance away from Benjamin Netanyahu. What does this say about British and Qatari relations at this point?
Well, Keir Starmer cannot be trusted. He's been flip-flopping on this issue, supporting Israel, whatever it took. And we saw yesterday those reports are actually not false. There was a refueling jet that did assist some of the Israeli military hardware as it was as they were flying through Qatar and bombing the house where the Hamas meeting was taking place. So the British can't be trusted, and I think Qatar is in a very difficult position at the moment in terms of relooking its foreign policy position and relationships with the West. But also there's another culprit in the region in the form of Mohammed bin Zayed from United Arab Emirates, who has been also known to be supplying arms to Israel. And although he was the first one to phone and the first one to arrive today in Qatar, Doha, to kind of send his solidarity with the Qataris, but everybody knows in the region that he is the main culprit. UAE has normalized relations with Israel and continues to play a very negative role, not only in Qatar, but also in Sudan and other parts of the Middle East. So Qatar, I think, will have to go back to its drawing board in terms of its foreign policy position, in terms of it, and also in terms of its military cooperation with countries in the region and countries in the world. But particularly, it has to reconsider its relationship with the United States.
And where does this leave the ongoing ceasefire negotiations?
Well, it seems as if they're going to be stalled from now. I mean, we clearly see that Benjamin Netanyahu is not interested in a ceasefire. He did this, if you remember, when the Iranians were negotiating with the United States. He decided to go on and bomb Iran without the knowledge of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was visibly upset when that happened, and that stalled the negotiations between the United States and Iran. Most people thought those negotiations were going to yield some positive results. Now you have the United States given or having provided the ceasefire proposal to the Hamas, and Hamas was busy studying that. And then Benjamin Netanyahu decides to bomb the leadership of Hamas. Now, this is a man, of course, who's not interested in ceasefire. He was continually sabotaging ceasefire, but we see him being treated with kid gloves by the United States instead of Donald Trump reading Benjamin Netanyahu the Riot Act. We're seeing him speaking softly on him, and which means, therefore, that Benjamin Netanyahu will continue doing so because the United States doesn't seem to care and continues to support him, notwithstanding his destabilizing efforts in the region.
Yeah. Thembisa Fakude, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insights. Really do appreciate it. Thembisa Fakude is a Senior Research Fellow and Director of the Africa-Asia Dialogue.